Welcome to the Soaring Through Adversity podcast, dedicated to empowering individuals with cognitive and physical disabilities to live beyond limitations. I am Renee Breazeale, your host. Through candid conversations and inspiring interviews, we will discover the abilities found in every disability. Let's learn, understand, and embrace the world of disabilities, fostering inclusivity and respect. Hey, y'all. Welcome to the Soaring Through Adversity podcast, brought to you by the Victory Advantage, a nonprofit dedicated to empowering individuals with cognitive and physical disabilities to live independent lives. We hope to inspire you to reframe how you view disability through inclusion and respect. This episode, Life Reimagined, where we take life's curveballs and turn them into home runs, sometimes with a little laughter, a few tears, and a lot of coffee. Today, you'll be in for an inspiring, unpredictable, and maybe slightly chaotic ride because I'm not flying solo. That's right, I have a co pilot, and let me tell you, she is a firecracker. My co host, Christa Tyson.
Hey, Renee.
How are you?
I'm great to be sitting here with you.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Um, this is going to be an interesting day because people look at us and say, what kind of disability do you have?
You know, Renee, I think if we took our disabilities, which mine is, I have Parkinson's disease. I was diagnosed about 10 years ago. It's about 44 years old. So, yeah, you can do the math. And, I think if we all took our disabilities and threw them in a hat, we would gladly pull ours back out. So, I think today I don't want to compare my disability to anyone else's, but it's how does my disability affect me? Did I think at 54 years old, my life would be forever changed and a different, outcome than I thought would be? I never thought that. But my disability has affected my life, but it's what I've chosen to do with that. And one of the things I've been uncomfortable about is talking about it. And so today is a big deal. And I know you have your own, disabilities. Tell us a little bit about yours.
Well, first of all, I want to tell you thank you for speaking so openly about what you go through on a daily basis. For me, I was running a company and things were going well, loving life, and was having headaches and some other symptoms. Um, right leg, left leg was having seizures. I didn't know what they were at the time. The fatigue was overwhelming, and one day I found myself in an MRI machine and it was clanging and banging, and I was just laying in there saying, "Dear God, make me not wait long for a diagnosis,"
Right.
because I'd had to wait for 3 weeks for the MRI. And my husband and I both knew something was wrong, but never in a million years did we think that they would pull me out of the machine and say, "They need to see you." And I go into a room with Ray, and there is images of a huge brain tumor sitting on top of
Oh
my
my
head.
gosh, I cannot imagine.
For me, being a fix it person, as I call myself, I looked at it and I had been thinking I had Alzheimer's because there was so much with memory issues. So I'm looking at the screen thinking they can fix that, not going to where it could lead at that point. So at that moment, it was shocking, but they sent me straight to the hospital to remove it. So it didn't turn out quite that way.
How terrifying, though, that your life is just instantly what if this and what if that.
Oh yeah, that what if land that I talk about.
Exactly, exactly. And knowing you as one of my dearest best friends, your control freak self, you couldn't fix that. You wanted to be in control of that. Am I right?
Yes, me standing there thinking they can fix that. That actually kept me going for a little while until the doctor comes in and starts telling me how this procedure is going to work, and he's going to cut me from ear to ear. And but at that moment, I was scared. The family was around me, and it's funny now, but at the time I hadn't thought about it about me losing my hair because they'd have to shave my
Right.
head. And the doctor comes around and he takes his pen and says, "I think I can save your hair." So I could feel the air being let out into the room from my daughter and my mom. And and at that time, like I say, I hadn't thought about it. And then at that moment, thought, well, what difference does it make? But it made a huge difference later on when,
Right.
I had come out of surgery and there were so many issues from the surgery. Not having hair would have been one more huge impact.
Sure.
And, but from there, we can talk about what else happened after I hear more about your story.
Well, and talking about hair, I have a story about that too. We still have to have our vanity. Um, like I said, about 10 years ago, I was going through a very bad divorce and I was noticing a lot of tremors on my left side. And so I went for my annual checkup and my doctor said, "How long has this been going on?" I said, "About 6 months." And the next day he had me in at a neurologist. And the neurologist said, "We're going to do an MRI. It's one of three things: brain tumor, MS, or Parkinson's." And I'm thinking, well, none of those sound very promising or very good.
Yeah.
So I had the MRI and the neurologist, because Parkinson's in the brain is not a definitive, you can't see, but they knew that there was no tumor and no MS.
So it was more like a process of elimination.
Yes, and it's physical testing. I could show you some of the motor and physical skills they had me do, which made it very definitive. There was dragging, on one of my rigidity, dragging, but mostly the tremors are what would just make me so anxious because my body was so much movement all day long that I was exhausted at night, and it was just my nerves were just torn to pieces. So from there, my husband now found me I found this fabulous doctor at the Mayo Clinic in Jacksonville and went there and he told us about this new procedure called deep brain stimulator, where they actually go in, they put electrodes into the brain in the area which controls the tremors of your body. And I actually have two leads in my brain, which normally there is one, but they put two in, and then they run a conduit kind of behind my ear. And because it was my left side, the surgery was on the right, the stimulator's on the right. And then I was awake through that, Renee.
The stories you told me about that. I mean, how did you come out of that without PTSD?
Exactly. Well, my neurologist was, and when I was rolled into the ER, there were like 15 people in the operating room, excuse me, the OR in the operating room. I'm like, oh, they have not told me something. And my neurologist held my hand the entire time. And while the surgeon said, count to 30, and this is when I'll do the drilling because there are no nerve endings on your brain. So they just numb the skulls, and your head's in a halo, like One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest kind of thing. You're bolted down. And I just kept thinking, please don't
Bolted
let,
down.
yes, your head's bolted
I'm
down.
not the only control freak in the room, people.
Oh, yeah, no, you're absolutely right. I did not like that I could not get up when I wanted to. So he said, "Krista, count to 30. And at the end of 30 seconds, the drilling will be finished." Well, I'm counting and he's not done. And I'm like, listen, dude, your 30 seconds and my 30 seconds are not the same. But I was able to, through being awake, I was able to tell them when I did not feel the internal tremors. They did one lead and I could still feel internal tremors. So
Wait a minute.
just
You can feel your tremors on the inside.
I do. Yes. It's like, and we'll get into this later. I've got to have the right side done now. Yeah, it feels like almost nerve impulses, just tightening of your nerves, just on and off constantly. It's like shaking on the inside that you can't see from the outside.
Because I can't see you shaking on the outside right now. Can you feel yourself
My
shaking?
right side, yes. Absolutely. I just feel like I'm always in constant motion. And the medication, carbidopa, levodopa, that they put me on causes dyskinesia. Just like you see Michael J. Fox, his twitching is not necessarily from the Parkinson's, but from the long-term effects of the carbidopa levodopa drugs.
And what does,
Dyskinesia, it's a constant swaying or constant body in movement,
hmm
and that's from long-term use of medications.
Oh, I didn't realize that. I thought it
Yes.
was a residual long term effect of Parkinson's.
Parkinson's, I mean, it can be both, but basically, like when I take my meds first thing in the morning, within 30 minutes, I'm putting on my makeup and I'm just kind of swaying, which I wish insurance would pay for me a glam team. I think that that's something I need to work on. What do you think? Because I'm getting mascara like all in my eyeballs. Oh goodness. But anyway, one reason I chose the Mayo Clinic in Jacksonville is because they were not going to have to shave my whole head.
There, hey, we have our priorities in life.
Exactly, exactly. But anyway, they put the lead in, then they did put me to sleep and they ran the wire into my chest. So I have a battery on the right side of my chest, almost like it looks like a pacemaker. And it constantly pumps power to stimulate the neurons that are still living to produce dopamine in the brain because Parkinson's is lack of dopamine.
Lack of dopamine, which is a
Yes.
very vital part of our brain,
Yeah,
and
it
it
is.
and it depletes that.
It depletes the dopamine.
Is that medication? Is that what helps build it back up?
It is carbidopa, levodopa. I believe in one of like the levodopa, it keeps the carbidopa from going straight into your brain because it would kill you. It would make you so violently ill. So the levodopa takes the carbidopa through your bloodstream and then to your brain.
Wow.
And like I said, I notice it more than other people.
We're our hardest
Well,
critic.
absolutely are, and it makes me very intimidated, especially now since the tremors are more, are worse on my right, and I'm a right-handed eater and makeup person, and when I get nervous, it gets worse. When I'm tired, when I don't exercise, so those are the three things that you have to do. It won't cure Parkinson's, but it helps the effects are exercise, sleep, and nutrition. So,
Well, you definitely exercise.
oh gosh, well, and it's funny. God puts people in your path. I love to play tennis, and for years I couldn't play tennis because I just shook too badly, and because of the dragging of my left foot, it was just dangerous. So after this, about a year after the surgery, I was able to play tennis again, and I've met this group of women that I play tennis with. They know about my disability, and they don't care. They don't care that I'm not fast. They don't care, they know that I'm a miracle to be out there, and I am. There's
Yes,
nothing
you
short of
are.
that. So I think God puts people in your path that accept you the way you are, and this is
Just like you to
just like
me.
me. Well, of course, I love you no matter what, but you have more than just a brain tumor. I mean, you had a stroke too. You're
Yeah,
you're one you're one sassy lady,
yeah,
one
that I
strong one.
did. A mild stroke, and I had to learn to walk again, and I was in a wheelchair for quite a while, and then went to the walker, and then the cane, and was able to walk on my own. But my left leg came back, and my right leg just didn't because of where the tumor was sitting. So I deal with that. I have a limp that I've learned to call my stagger swagger.
I love that.
And it can be difficult, there's things that I want to do that I can't. I'm just learning to concentrate on what I can and let go of the rest. And that
It's
can
so
be
much easier said than done, though, isn't it?
oh, it is. Especially for somebody that's been as active as I am, as
Right.
active as you are. It's it is tough. It's really, some people say take it one day at a time. I mean, there's days when it's 1 minute. Just
You're absolutely right. But when I'm with you, I don't see you as being having any limp, any disability. As a matter of fact, sometimes I have to consciously tell myself, slow down. She can't walk. And I'm not a fast walker anymore either, but I have to say, slow down because I feel so insensitive sometimes
yeah.
because I don't look at you as anything being wrong with you. I always think of it as something being right with you because you're so much more compassion. You have so much compassion. You have so much drive to help other people. And maybe some of that's a result of what you've been through.
It definitely is. I never really had given much thought to disabilities per se, and those that deal with it every day. And when I was in the wheelchair, I really saw how people are treated that
Mhm.
have disabilities. I was ignored. People wouldn't make eye contact. They would talk to my husband instead of me. And Ray would say, "She's sitting right there. She can tell you." And, they would kind of have a shocked look on their face because they hadn't even looked at me. So I went through that and saw how, places would say they were ADA, but not in reality.
Right.
They had done the limited amount that they could do to be able to put that sign up in restaurants, even bathrooms. And so it was just really eye opening to me to give me a drive to want to help people with disabilities. And then it hit close to Ray's heart because his brother Davy had Downs before he passed away last year. One of the kindest, sweetest individuals I've ever met. And then it also come into play with your stepdaughter
Yeah.
having a disability. She's got CP.
Yeah. 5 years ago, this precious soul came into my life via her dad. And I had no clue how there is really a discrimination not an overt one in most cases, but one of just ignorance. We don't
Yes.
know.
Yes.
I have learned so much through you, so much through her. And so that's how you founded Victory Advantage.
Exactly. Eric
How
shared with
exciting.
me, how difficult it was for people with disabilities to live independently, to have a life like you and I, and to have any independence at all is limiting. So when Eric started talking about that and you and I started talking about that,
And Eric's my husband.
oh yes, Eric Trumpauer, great guy. In many ways, the empathy that he has and the love that he has for his family is amazing. And what it takes to be a caregiver, but that's a whole nother podcast.
Well, let me ask you this. Do you ever have to just laugh at yourself? I mean, I've seen you do it, but I could name times that you have. I'll tell you one with me that I laughed at the other day. Do you remember when we were young and you would stay at hotels at like the beach and you would have those little machines beside the bed and you put a quarter in it and it would make the bed vibrate? Do you
Yes,
remember those?
yes. We're
Well, I
telling our
told
age,
Eric
but
the
yeah.
other day that he has the built-in one of me and he doesn't have to give me a quarter because I shake all the time. So he's got that built-in motion,
That is
bed.
hilarious.
So, it you have to laugh at yourself sometimes. You really do. And I always laugh. I'm like, I cannot wear anything white because the way my hand shakes, I'm going to end up with it all over the front of me. And in the beginning, it made me cry. And I
Yeah.
thought, get up, put your big girl panties on, and laugh.
That's what you have to do. I mean, I know this moment sticks out with me because we were together and we were on a boat and I couldn't get off of it. They were trying to help me and I kept falling back and they'd pull me back up and I'd fall back in the boat and I was laughing and because what good would it do to cry? And I was in a boat. I was with friends. We were on a beautiful lake and we were trying to get to a restaurant. We finally got there, but I remember Krista saying, I love how she laughs at
I
herself,
do.
but
I
you just
admire
have to do
that so
that.
much about you because you have taught me so much. And that is one thing is how do you laugh at yourself? I mean, how do you do it? And because people are watching you, people you may not know, they're watching you to see how you deal with adversity.
Well, and I'm hoping they do because I want to encourage people to know there is a life after a diagnosis, that it'll be different, it'll be a new normal, but it's what you make out of it. And I think you mentioned the Victory Advantage, the foundation. It is so that people with disabilities have a voice, have a face, and which is why this podcast started, was because I interview people with disabilities so that they don't feel unseen and unheard. They can tell their story. And the best thing about the podcast is how blessed I feel sitting here with Krista, the other guests that I've had, is because they're okay. Their outlook on life is absolutely amazing. They are positive. They always uplift other people
Absolutely.
if you just give them the chance and the respect to do that.
And if you ever think you're having a bad day, yeah, like I said, we would pull ours back out of a hat
Oh, yes.
easily.
Oh, yes.
What are some of the hardest things for you? Like for me, having to do with family, some of the saddest times I get, you have two girls. I
Hmm.
have two girls and two bonus daughters. And it's when I think my kids are worried about me. If they'll say, Mom, are you okay? Because they'll see the tremors. That is when my heart breaks into, oh, I'm going to cry now, breaks into a million pieces because you never want them to worry.
Hmm.
Um, I know you probably feel that same way.
I do, and then I've got 4 bonus children. Then I got 10 grandchildren and 2 on the way, and it's really interesting.
Girl,
I
you're
know,
busy.
I know. The grandchildren, they ask why. What's wrong with you, Nene?
Oh, yeah.
And so I'm able to tell them my story, and it's really interesting. Their take on it, but children are just so open. They ask the question because they want the answer. They don't beat around the bush. They're just who they are.
Hmm.
And my children too worry about me, but I also have noticed that I've heard them say that what I went through has made them stronger.
What a compliment that is.
Yeah, it's amazing. And then here I've got to say that my bonus daughter, Madison, she was on the podcast last month. She was 29 years old and had a massive stroke.
Holy
And
cow.
it has been quite the ride. And watching her, she had to learn to walk again. The symptoms were so similar that I was able to sit down in front of her wheelchair and tell her, I know how you feel. And that was a moment when, you don't know why bad things happen.
Mhm.
Sometimes they just
Mhm.
do. But for me, that was a moment of, you know, if I had this brain tumor so that I could be here for her and to positively impact other people's lives, then for me, it was worth it, even as hard as it has been, because it changed me to be able to do that, not to be so hard and not to be so work driven, to have other priorities in life. It changes your perspective totally. Madison is walking now. Her left side is like my right side. And when we're together,
Your
people's like, what
bookends.
is wrong with y'all? And then this is a funny story that we still carry and tell people. We were in a rehab facility. She was there and I was there to support her. And she has an orthotic, and it's called an AFO on her left leg, and I have one on my right. We had our tennis shoes on and we were going one behind the other, and our AFOs were squeaking in our shoes. And she was still struggling to walk. She had to hold
Sure.
on to something or have a cane or do both. And she looked at me and said, she said, we sound like two ducks in a row. And it was just a moment
I love
because
that.
she was in intense physical therapy
Yeah.
and she had some speech impediments, several things that she was working through, but she still, like you're saying, she had that ability to laugh. And we have to savor those moments because there's so many times when you just can't find the joy in it, but thank God it always comes back.
Yeah, it's not all a bed of roses, is it? I mean,
No.
there are times I get down on myself. I've been in commercial real estate for 32 years. I love what I do. Worked with my dad for so many years, and unfortunately, he left us 5 years ago. And before he died, he said, I want you to find the best doctor you can, and I want you to take care of yourself. And so I'm, trying to keep that promise to him. But again, sometimes it makes me feel like less of a woman, less
Yes.
of a human. Sometimes it does. And I
Yes.
think it's real easy to be able to get into a pity party. And I used to just not allow myself, but now there are times that I go, okay, you know what? I'm going to stay in this for about 10 minutes and I'm going to
Yeah,
feel sorry for myself and I'm going to pity party and then I'm going to throw the Kleenex away and I'm going to say, what's next? And you move on.
you do.
The Soaring Through Adversity podcast is presented by Victory in Time. Victory in Time's mission is to help executives, leaders, and business owners excel in their faith, lives, and work. Through speaking engagements, one-on-one mentoring, and our mastermind groups, known as Victory Circles, Victory in Time wants to help you become the best leader you can be. Find out more at victoryintime.com. Also, don't forget to pick up your copy of the Soaring Through Adversity book, Life Lessons to Lead Triumph and Rise Above. All net proceeds from sales of the Soaring Through Adversity book benefit Victory Advantage.
What's next in the community? With the foundation, it's new. We started in January and we've got a long way to go. But Krista, thank you for being on the board. It's amazing working with you there with all of your experience, with all the nonprofits that you work with here in Union County. And that's where you live, right? Well, now you live in South Carolina,
No,
but you were raised here, right?
I was born and raised in Union County like yourself. There are not many of us left around, are
No,
there?
there is not.
So we are the few and the proud.
That's
And
right.
you had quite the career of a boss babe in a predominantly male world, kind of like me. Tell us a little bit about that for those that may not know.
Well, I had a nut and bolt company is the easiest way to put it for 32 years.
So you're the nut.
I most of the time, most of the time. And because of the business, it was nuts, bolts, and screws, and I had to be really careful how I use that word as
Oh wow,
well.
I'm sure.
Because being male dominated, they could always come up with
Of course.
something. Yeah. So but I loved it. I had a fantastic team around me. It started in Knoxville, Tennessee, and I had three partners, was able to become sole owner and bring it back to Charlotte and then to Indian Trail. And I had the time of my life. It was absolutely amazing. And I still had it in '08 when I had the brain tumor. And it was also when, the economy, the economy
Right.
crashed.
Yeah.
It was terrible. And they call it the Great Recession. But for me, it felt a whole lot more because I'm sitting in there in a wheelchair. But, that's when I realized that your attitude makes such a big difference. And that's why I wanted people to look me in the eye and talk to me because I was still the same person in that wheelchair that I was when I was standing there in my suit and my pumps.
Such a
And
very powerful statement.
and I realized that with that attitude, just like other people that I've interviewed, they've got that attitude that I am somebody. I may be different. But God created me for a reason, and that's what you got to hang on to. It's different, but it's okay.
And sometimes, Renee, I think as women or as mothers, as women in business, sometimes I find myself, I'll speak for me, I'm not honest enough sometimes about my disability.
True.
Sometimes I don't feel good and I just put on the smile. Everything's great. Everything's fine. And then I feel worse.
Because you push through.
And you push through, and I don't want anyone to worry about me, feel less about me. I told a friend of mine I played tennis with the other day, I said, it's just a bad day. And that was huge for me to say that.
To admit it.
Yeah, I can't hold this tennis racket today. And to feel safe, to be able to say that and feel safe is a huge deal. And I need to learn. I mean, I can always do that with you, and you can always do that with me, but I've had to learn to be more honest about how I'm feeling and if I'm scared or, I'm really having to learn that.
And to teach ourselves, because we do work hard to be that powerhouse female, that it's okay to admit that we have weaknesses because everybody does.
Everyone does. And I think that's a very powerful lesson to teach our girls as well. Is it's okay to say, I'm not okay?
Exactly. And to feel okay about it long term.
Right.
And the other piece that I would say I deal with is okay, then I try to make up for it the next day, which is
Right.
detrimental to what you just did the day before. So
That's
we've just
right.
got to do what we can do and be happy with that.
I think that's just, it comes from being comfortable in my skin.
Oh, that's a good
And
point.
that's a constant, something I'm working on constantly, is just being comfortable in my own skin, this new skin that I have now.
Yeah, that's true. And you were talking about your tremors, and I don't see any at all right now. It's
And I
amazing.
feel them, but see, it's all
Yeah.
too, it's, and I could show you some of the physical, but thank you. But just because you love me, you would say, no.
I'm looking at your eyes and seeing that smile. Yeah, from the beauty queen.
Oh, well, again, that's why you're my best friend. So, I keep you around for a reason, Renee.
That's good. That's good.
But we have a lot in us. And I think we're also put in a position of education, educating other people, especially what you're doing through the Victory Advantage, educating other people on persons with disabilities. And, we want to take our my bonus daughter Grace on a cruise. She's never seen Paris. She wants to go to Paris. But that takes so much planning because you have to make sure everywhere is accessible. And it's like you're saying, it's not just having a bar in the bathroom. It's, can you pull your chair under the sink to brush your teeth? Can your chair fit through the door? Can it fit in the elevator? You think you have all these ADA guidelines, but you're right, they meet the bare minimum.
They do. They do. And that's why part of TVA is about helping people create a home that's accessible, is one of the things that we
Yes.
do, because they can't live a good life where they don't have accessibility, like you said. When I came home in a wheelchair, my shower was not adaptable to be in a wheelchair. There was
Yes.
just so many things, and it was so eye-opening to the realities after being in the rehab hospital as long as I was, and everything was perfect for somebody in a wheelchair.
That's true.
And I'm thinking, I can do this. And then I get it just in my own home, and I'm like, my husband had to pick me up and put me in the shower, put me on the toilet, everything. Because at that point, I still couldn't even tie my own shoes.
Well, that was true love.
Oh, Definitely. Oh my God,
It's a humbling
yes.
experience, right,
Yes.
for both
Oh
of you.
my gosh, that whole process, because I have always considered myself and actually prided myself on being one of the most independent people. And God showed me that it's okay to be dependent. It's okay to accept help. It's even okay to ask for help. But you can't be Superwoman. You can't do everything on your own. So it was
We are recording this so I can play it back to you, right? Okay, just making sure.
oh, yes. Yes, I'm afraid so. There's several things we're going to be able
To play back again. Did you
yes.
hear yourself say that? All right,
Yes.
now do it.
That's
No,
right.
you are just such an admirable person. You really are, for coming through adversity. And put a plug in here for your book, girlfriend.
Oh gosh. Well, I wrote a book during COVID after I sold the company, and it's called Soaring Through Adversity. And it's about all the adversities that I've been through in life. And there have been quite a few. And at first, it was going to be a book about business. And then I realized how intertwined my business life and my personal life was and is. So I put it all out there. And there were a lot of adversities, from homelessness to an early divorce to a broken back. There was just so many things that had happened that I was able to overcome. But one of the things I realized is through all that, I continued to work very hard. And the business had its ups and downs as well. But there always seemed to be a way to get through it, with my independent mind and being able to do it all on my own. So when the brain tumor came about, I had to put all this information in this book because I wanted people to see you can go through adversities, but there is victory on the other side. So I realized through that and writing the book that my faith had gotten me through so much of what I'd gone through, and it had to be a part of the book. And I'm also an avid fan of an eagle. My life verse is Isaiah 40:31, and it's all about the eagle. And those that wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up on wings like eagles. They shall walk and not grow weary. They shall run and not faint. And so I learned through writing the book that I'd always concentrated on through work, the eagle and the flight and the strength. And the Lord said, especially when I was writing about the tumor, that it's more about the weight. And when you have a disability, you spend a lot of time waiting, just waiting. You can't do things as fast as you used to. Something that you could go into a store and do, like I was in a situation yesterday and they were like, we need to go out there and do it really quick and come back. And I just laughed. There is no quick for me. So I politely
Right.
asked somebody to do the chore for me, and I'll be waiting here when you get back. So it was okay.
You learn to delegate.
That's the good word. That's the good word. So I enjoyed writing the book, and I hope it helps people.
You can get it on Amazon, correct?
You
Soaring
can,
Through
and you can get
Adversity.
it on my website, and you can get it also on the Victory Advantage. It's thevictoryadvantage.org. You can get it there, and there you can get a signed copy if you would like.
Like mine. I
That's
have
right,
one.
a
I had to
personalized
wait in
copy.
line to get it signed though. I was like, could friends just not jump to the front? You
That
weren't
was
quite.
that was a beautiful night.
That was a beautiful, beautiful night.
Yeah.
But one thing we've kind of touched on a little bit is about our family that's around us. You talk about Ray, I talked about Eric. I'll never forget one of our very first date actually. We're sitting at dinner. We met at a restaurant, and I just like threw up all over him, telling him everything. I have Parkinson's because my first thought was he needs to know this up front so that he can either walk out the door now and he's not going to wait until I fall in love with him and then walk out the door.
Yes.
He needs to know this up front. So I was very open and honest, and, we're married where she's still there. But I also know that it can't be easy for him. I know it's not easy for anyone that loves us to see us hurting. Um, and so I have to really be careful that I try not to put everything on him. I have a therapist that I can talk to. I have friends. I have you. So that he is not my one and only, that I put everything on him. I have to have other people in my life as a support system, and I'm sure you found that as well. How do you feel about that and about people that surround you in your life?
Well, like with Ray, and he had to do so much for me. I noticed how, we have friends and they were there to help, family too in the beginning, but their lives go back to normal.
Right. Good
So,
point.
Ray was there and I watched it wear him down. But then the good friends are there and they help us continue to get through. But that's one of the reasons that, you know, I don't think caregivers get enough recognition because they are in it with us. And Ray and I, you told Eric everything on your first date. I didn't know about the brain tumor, but Ray and I had only been married a year. So
Wow.
I did blindside him, not intentionally, but because they
Right.
said the brain tumor had probably been in there growing for 10 years.
Doesn't that speak volumes
Oh,
about the people
yes,
we love and
it
that love
does.
us?
It does. And I encourage everybody, not just somebody with disabilities, to find their people.
Yeah, you have to have your tribe. That the whole cliche is true.
That's
It
true.
really is, and professionals. You know,
When you mentioned counseling, that's something that I put in the book was about mental health
Mm.
that I have had struggles with depression,
Mhm.
off and on my whole life. And, the situation has not helped a whole lot.
Absolutely.
But I'm willing, because of me being less independent, I'm also willing to do the counseling and do what I need to do. And I would encourage everybody else to do the same thing because it can be overwhelming on those that support you.
Being vulnerable is tough.
Oh my gosh.
It's tough because we think we're going to be judged, and maybe that's one of the things about getting older. The beauty in it is it just doesn't matter as much what other people think about us. It just doesn't anymore. It matters more what I think about myself, how God feels about me, and the people around me, that love me. That matters to me.
That's right.
But
Not what people think.
right, right. If I trip walking in the Chick-fil-A across the street, can I laugh at myself, or are people going to think I'm just a klutz? Well, a little bit of that too, but it's how we deal with it. And
Uh,
what are you laughing at? You have another funny story.
yes, we were uptown and a bar area, and I was going out to my car, and I'm like, they're gonna think I'm drunk. Let me get in here. Let
You
me get in
never
here and
pass
put
a
up my
field
handicap
sobriety
sticker
test,
real
huh?
quick. And then I'll make a joke that if I get pulled and I have to do the
The
sobriety
sobriety.
walk,
Oh, we're
oh, I'm
sunk.
screwed.
We
I'm
better ask for
screwed.
the breathalyzer
Yeah,
first thing, because yeah, if they say walk a solid line, we'd be like, oh, that is never gonna
not gonna
happen.
happen. I'll be going straight to jail.
I
Do
know
not pass go.
that will never happen. Well, this has just been so much fun. I love seeing you in action, and I never tire of your enthusiasm and your story, and you know just how you are as a person. Just is just a joy to always be around. I always feel better when I leave your presence.
Well, and I do you too. And I always think about how we have been in the same circles, being on boards and, you know, just we're at Union County is not a huge county. So we would see each other a lot at events and that kind of thing. And really worked on an event together where Christa was roasted and it was absolutely funny. And we raised a lot of money for the battered women's
Yes,
shelter,
we did.
but we got so close then, and God does everything by design.
He
He
does.
knew that we were going to be able to help each other and in turn take what we are going through and help other people. And I think it is just a beautiful friendship.
My dad always said, to whom much is given, much is expected.
Oh,
And I
yes.
think this is expected of us. And it not only heals us from the inside, but hopefully it helps someone else heal as well.
And what's amazing about that is say you do something for someone because you believe that it will bless them. that was my thought process, and somewhat still is, because I hope it does bless them, but I'm the one that is blessed the
Oh,
most.
absolutely.
When I do one of these podcasts or just meet with somebody, and it doesn't have to be somebody with a disability. It's just that fact of giving back and helping somebody that may be less fortunate or just needs a smile.
Right.
You always walk away feeling better. And that's what you do.
Well, that's what you do too.
Oh,
So we make a good team. Give me the what do they call it? Wonder Twins.
there
There you go.
there you go. Where do you find your greatest strength?
It is my higher power. It's God.
Yes.
Um, in the depths, sometimes in the worst times of my life, I've just gotten on my knees and said just the trenches prayer, God help me. And so that's my most important relationship. But it's also my family and my close friends. And I've had to learn to lean on them a lot more. Um,
And not always take care of them.
and not always take care of them, which is hard. It's very hard because we're used to being caregivers. Um, and to let people love on me, instead of always being the lover, let
Yeah.
people love on me.
Yeah.
But my strength comes from that and who I surround myself with.
That's perfect.
What about you?
Oh, it's definitely the Lord. I would not be where I am. Um, there was times that through the hardest times that I've never felt closer um, to my faith. And that's what got me through, and there's no doubt. And, I talked about Ray being put in my life only. We dated for a year and been married for a year, but he was the one that noticed the greatest difference in me because he was new to me. And that was when I had my greatest, downturn, more of the symptoms. And so, I have to put him right up there. And, my parents are aging, and I feel so bad when I see my dad watch me walk.
Yeah.
Um, because it hurts him. So I
Yeah.
always, with them, I look at them as, we support each other. And it's amazing. I've got a good support system around.
Yes, you do.
Mhm.
Yes, you do.
What's your most memorable moment through all your journey?
Probably the most memorable was my surgery because you go in and they're digging into your brain. And I don't know if I'll be the same person when I come out, when I would come out. And I think this next surgery we're scheduling, I'm more scared or more in fear because I know what to expect. I know what to expect, and that scares me because before I didn't know I was going to have my head bolted down. I didn't know everything that was going to happen, and now I do. But it was memorable for many reasons. First of all, because it was a miracle. I mean, that when I woke up, there were no tremors. And it was just like I felt at peace for the first time in so long. But secondly, it was memorable because I did change. I think you start realizing your own mortality, and emotionally and mentally, it weighed on me. It was tough. It was really tough. And I had to make some big changes in my life right after that for my health and my physical and my mental health. And I made some really big changes that were for the best. And they were hard, but I knew what I had to do to be around to see my grandchildren and great grandchildren.
That's beautiful. I think for me, it was the fact that they told me all the things that could happen when I was headed into surgery. Like, I may not know anybody, which they came out and
Oh,
told Ray that it was
fear.
likely. It was, I might lose my legs from where the tumor was sitting because it controlled everything from the waist down, plus other organ failures from that. But I think what I was able to do was use my faith and stand on it to help me control the fear.
Yeah.
And people saw that, and I'm hoping maybe led them in a different direction, maybe towards their faith. And I know that one of the major reasons that I had it was because I have been so much more open.
Really?
I do. I have been more vulnerable. if someone asks me, how I get through what I get through, it's my faith. And I don't know. I've always talked about my faith, but now it's in a different way.
It's
It's
faith put into action.
exactly. I've lived it. It's not just been, I read this in the Bible today. I've gone through this today. And I saw this in the Bible that pertains exactly to what I've gone through. The other thing is that I've learned, and I saw this through the book too, but it really came home with this, is that the deeper the valley, the more grand the victory is.
That's awesome.
It really is. It holds true.
And I think we're talking about our faith and how we handle things, we think so well. But there are times that we are tested.
Oh yeah,
There are times I am mad at God. There are times, but I think he says that's okay.
I think he
Because
does
then
too.
he's proving himself to me and I'm questioning, meaning I want to learn more. So I'm not a ray of sunshine all the time. Absolutely not. And I guess it depends on who you ask about that. But it's not. I don't want anyone to ever think that it's just so easy and I've got this faith that just pulls me through anything. It does, but sometimes it takes a lot of work.
It does, and not too long ago, I was singing "Jesus Loves Me" to one of the grandchildren,
Mm-hmm.
and it hit me, "When I am weak, you are strong." And I was like, how many times have you sang or heard "Jesus Loves Me"? And that just stood out to me. And I'm like, yes, yes. And the weaker you are, the more he shows up.
This is kind of off topic, but I was just thinking about this when we did our little Wonder Twin Power thing.
Yeah.
If there is one thing, a talent or something you do not have, or some superpower you wish you did have, what would it be?
I have no idea. What's yours?
Oh, girl, I'd be a rock star.
Oh, would you?
I love to sing. I can turn on my radio. I was singing Christmas carols Sunday morning as loud as they would go. But listen, I thought I told you this when I did pageants when I was younger. I danced,
Yeah.
but I wanted to sing because I love to sing. So my mother took me to like one of the best voice teachers in Charlotte. And after about 2 months, she called my mom in and told her I needed to stick to dance. That honest, true story. So God says, make a joyful noise. Mine's not joyful, but I make a noise. And so when I get to heaven one day, I want to like be in the cherub choir. Like I want to be able to belt out music.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's amazing. That's amazing. And yes, you were what, Miss North Carolina?
Yes, 1993. Yep.
And you danced your way there. Not singing.
Miss USA, not singing. Miss USA, there's no talent. That's why I did better in that one, in that system, because you didn't have to have a talent.
Oh my God. Superpower. Maybe considering I can't walk, I'd like to fly.
I was just thinking that because of the eagle. Yeah.
Yes. Mount up on wings like eagles. I could do that.
You could fly. You could see what all your children and grandchildren were doing all the time. If
I
you
don't
could
want to
fly.
do that. It might be fun in the beginning, but I've got one that's 17, one just started at Alabama. I don't want to see what they're
I
doing.
started to say that's probably not a good idea. Yeah. Some things that grandma doesn't need to know, right?
Exactly. Oh my gosh. Have you thought about what hopes and aspirations you have for future people that are diagnosed with Parkinson's?
Yes, it is not. It is not a death sentence. Interestingly, when you're open and honest, and people know that you have this disease, like, oh, my brother has it. Oh, I found out there are some cousins I have that are diagnosed with it. That they're not close cousins, but it also goes to show that there may be a genetic link, or it could be now they're saying something with pollutants or chemicals that was sprayed on farms. I grew up in the country. Who knows? The thing
Yeah.
is, you got it. Now, what are you going to do? Um, but I want to be able to say, you can live a semi normal life. You will learn to adjust. Um, I will not die from Parkinson's. What most people from Parkinson's die from are falls, because our balance. I work with someone on my balance a couple of times a week. Um, but live your life, live your life, but also know your limitations and take care of yourself.
And know just how precious life is.
And that's the thing. I don't I always say, let's live life now. Let's take that trip. Because, in a year, two, 10, whatever, I might not be able to take that trip. So I remember Irma Bombeck. You remember when she wrote for the Charlotte Observer? She wrote
Yes.
these columns, "I'd pick more daisies." That's what it says. What are you waiting to use your good china for? What are you waiting to wear that pretty dress for? What are you waiting to do this for? And I kind of have that mindset more now is what am I waiting for? Because someone I love may not be here next year. So
You know just how precious life is.
that is a very
Yeah.
positive thing that's done is you realize just it can be over in the blink of an eye.
I take nothing for granted.
Right. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Thank you, Christa, for being my co host today.
Your partner in crime, girlfriend, this is a fun ride.
It is. We'll have to do it again.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for joining us on Soaring Through Adversity. Be sure to follow us on the YouTube channel and don't forget to subscribe. You can also find us wherever you listen to podcasts. New episodes are published on the first day of each month. For more information about the foundation, go to thevictoryadvantage.org. Once again, that is thevictoryadvantage.org. Again, if you would like to purchase my book, Soaring Through Adversity, or to speak, please go to victoryintime.com. As always, remember, faith first, not last, will lead to victory in time. And until next time, keep soaring.